kiss for you.
So I recently got a Quest 2 for free. I'll explain that in a minute. But I recently got a 256GB Quest 2 free with a computer purchase from Newegg a little bit ago. And that was lucky for me because I started getting, into VR and into that kind of thing. And that was before Meta decided to announce to everyone on starting in August or August 1st, that the Meta and the Quest 2 would be increasing their accessories pricing and stuff, as well as the pricing of the headset, by about $100 to be $400 for the base 128GB model and then $500 for the 256GB model. A bunch of people were freaking out saying, oh my god, how can you do this type of thing? You've captured the market, now you're gonna increase prices and all that sort of stuff. And so I thought I'd just kind of give my perspective on that. The reason I bring up this chart here that I made is quite simply because while I did not pay for the Quest 2, I most certainly did pay for the original Quest 1. I paid $400 for a 64GB version of the Quest 1. I used it a couple times, bought stuff like Job Simulator, Vacation Simulator, Beat Saber, Racket NX, and Demio. I kind of started playing around with those games and thought they were pretty interesting and stuff, and then I ultimately didn't use the Quest for a long period of time. In fact, the last purchase I had made was December 2019. So I basically kind of just like sat on the charging station on the box that came in or whatever, kind of just plugged in charging, not really doing a ton of things. And then when I got the Quest 2, as I wanted to, and there's a bunch of new games that had come out that I've recently got into. So where I wanted to give perspective is to a couple things. So here's a comparison chart that we'll get into here. And where we want to showcase is that the original Quest 1 launched with a bunch of, it was really good. It was a first-gen product, but it was really good standalone VR headset with a revolutionary Guardian boundary system that basically allowed you to set up a Guardian boundary anywhere you wanted to, versus other systems which you had to use sort of like base stations. So like for instance, they're called base stations. They're basically just 360 trackers. These kind of like cube looking things. You basically have to screw them into different parts of your walls, and that gave you 360 tracking of all your stuff. You had to like kind of set up a specific room to use them in. So instead of just being able to like kind of go down to your living room and set up a Guardian and your room and whatever, you have to set it up in a certain location. And there were infrared sensors that basically pinged off of whatever cameras were on the headset. The other also disadvantage of these things was that they were pretty expensive, and obviously you had to like put them up high, and so they didn't really work well for, mobility. So before the Guardian system that the Quest 1 introduced, base stations like this were pretty common. Nowadays, we have these Guardian systems that kind of Meta or Oculus kind of designed as a sort of a way to be able to set up anywhere really quickly without having to be in a certain location or that kind of stuff. They use the 4 cameras on the headset itself to do a lot of the tracking. So that system, along with the fact that it was the first standalone VR headset we had really ever seen, not needing to connect a cord or a PC or anything like that. Controllers were also a redesign of the controllers, very lightweight and stuff. Overall, it was a very new and interesting product that had not been done before. And there's a lot that hadn't been done before, right? The controllers, the headset, the cameras in the headset, the fact that you had a mobile processor in there to play games, and that the screens were like pretty high quality in the IPD, all that stuff, right? It was a very good first generation product. $400 for a 64GB model, which I bought and I used a little bit. Now, the reason I didn't end up using it a ton was mainly because there wasn't a ton of games around 2019 that I really was interested in. I think the last game that Pistol Whip, and I actually tried demo Pistol Whip on the Quest Quest 1, and it was good. But one thing we'll get into in a minute is all the advantages that the Quest 2 really has. So Pistol Whip was kind of this like on-rails arcade shooting thing where you'd go through these kind of like arcade tunnels or whatever and have all these people that you have to kind of like get in the way of and stuff, and you'd be like shooting them on like a rail to like music, kind of similar to Synth Riders, Beat Saber, those kind of like rhythm games with the Quest 2, and it was much, much better. So a couple of the advantages that the Quest 2 has, I think I haven't really talked about here. There's a number of advantages. So it was supposed to be lighter. It was supposed to have a bigger and, longer lasting battery. It was supposed to have higher resolution screens. It was supposed to have higher refresh rate, better processing, a more customly designed processed chip, the Qualcomm XR2 chip versus a Snapdragon 835 mobile processing chip. This Quest 2 was supposed to have a chip designed for specific VR, and then $100 cheaper were like the main 6 things that you could take away from the Quest 2, right? It didn't fix things like the FOV. It didn't really fix any controller issues. It didn't fix like cameras or maybe interface problems that people could have, but it fixed a lot of the issues that people were having with the Quest. And I honestly, if I hadn't got this Quest 2 for free, I might not have gone out and bought one even for $300 because I just wasn't interested in it. I knew there was a bunch of improvements, but I didn't really understand like what that meant. But it makes a really big difference. So the first thing I want to touch on is the fact that it is so much lighter. Like if I can do Quest 1 versus 2 top down. I have a picture of it that I might be able to show you, but like it's significant how much, yeah, here it is. This is significant how much smaller this one is. So this is the one on the right, the normal Quest 1, and this is the Quest 2 on the left. And it is like considerably smaller in lighter weight. And you don't feel it, like it doesn't feel lighter weight when you're picking it up. It doesn't like necessarily look that much lighter weight, but it actually feels like when I was putting the Quest 1 on, just as a kind of preparing app sharing or whatever, a new feature, but it was really heavy. And I don't think that's like my special cover or anything. I think it's a generally really heavy device because of what's in it, and it's weighing down your face, and that's why it prevents you from enjoying games like Pistol Whip, because you're moving around a lot in that game, right? And having something like this weigh on your face is definitely a downside, right? This is a lot lighter. It's a lot more, I won't say comfortable because we'll get to comfort in a moment, but it's just a lot better designed as a headset. There's a lot of improvements. One of them is not build quality and it is not strap quality. They actually downgraded the strap a little bit. There's some, nitpicks here and there, but overall, instead of this like felt material, it's this, not felt, kind of like fabric material. It's this hard plastic, which is fine. It's not a problem, but it makes it feel lighter weight, which is good. And these are, definitely durable, even if the build quality feels a little maybe cheaper than it would normally. But overall, it's much lighter. Battery life seems to be better over. Basically, it is a better Quest 1. I could go through all the reasons why. I'm not trying to make this a review, but overall, it's a better Quest 1. And a couple of the reasons people are mad that all of a sudden now it's going from 300 and 400 to 400 and 500 is because they don't think it's added anything, right? Compared to when it launched or whenever. There's not a bunch of things they magically added to make it worth the extra $100. And while you're right that from before a couple days before August and right now in August, they haven't added anything. Over the course of when it launched back in 2020, November-ish, they've done a lot. And I think people don't need to realize that. So a couple things I kind of noted on the side. These are things I've added through software updates that weren't there at launch. 90 hertz mode by default. It originally had a 72 hertz mode by, what the Quest 1 had. 90 hertz experimental. That's now been fully realized as kind of like a baseline. They've also now added 120 hertz mode in sort of menus and stuff and in games that can possibly take advantage of that, so that's really good. Hand tracking and hand tracking 2.0 are really big right now, so not needing a controller, being able to like use your hands and stuff and be able to pick stuff up and things is really good. Both updates for that. And the biggest one for me personally, the Quest 1, you could get something called a link cable. So, link cable. This link cable will basically allow you to connect your Quest to a PC if you had a PC and play PC VR games either through Steam or through the Oculus Store. But you had to buy a $80 fiber optic special cable because at the time it needed a special transmission that normal cables couldn't provide, and you basically needed that in order to stream the game, not stream the game, but process the stuff in the game from your computer into your headset. And that's how you could play things like Half-Life Alyx and, official versions of Pavlov at that time. They eventually, as of through a software update and maybe V4D2, allowed any cable, including the one that came with the set itself, to be used as a link cable instead of buying an $80 cable. This is massive because I do have a PC and it does run pretty well for games and stuff, and so I eventually got Half-Life Alyx and Pavlov, Elder Scrolls 5, Into the Radius were the 4 games I got on sale for the VR sale, whatever, and I was able to plug it in. I used my original Quest cable, just plugged it into my Quest 2 and into my PC. Didn't have to go in through a motherboard or graphics card or anything, just plugged it in, and it's working great. It's a little weird right now, mainly because I was using my front USB-C port here is a USB 2, so it's not like super secure or anything, but overall it's definitely a step up from what I was doing before. Having this ability to be able to connect to your PC is really big and something they allowed through a software update. Airlink, so you don't even now need a cable. Recommended obviously to have a cable, but if you don't have a cable, you have a PC, or even you're renting a PC, which is another option, you can Airlink. You don't need a physical connection or a cable if you don't like that. You could be downstairs in your living room, connect your PC that's upstairs through Airlink, and play PC VR games down there. Now, I wouldn't recommend it because it's not super secure at the moment in terms of latency and crashing and that kind of stuff. But if your PC is connected to Ethernet, it's definitely a very good option. Virtual desktop and other things. The other thing you can do with Airlink now is if you don't have a PC and you want to rent a PC through things like Shadow, you can do that. So if you have a Mac, you just rent a PC. Renting an entire PC, a full PC, just a click away type of thing, subscribe $30 a month, and you get a full-blown PC. You can Airlink to that PC that you're streaming through, direct connect, right? Doesn't really matter, through something like Shadow on your Mac, and be able to actually play PC VR games with your VR headset from just your typical computer that you would normally have, even if it's not a gaming computer, which is, I think, a bunch of people that don't kind of realize as, yes, it's in the cloud, it's streaming, but it's ultimately much better than if you were to buy a full-blown thing. So don't let the fact that you don't have a gaming PC discourage you from trying PC VR gaming. No Facebook account needed. This is really, I guess, a good benefit for people that don't want to connect their Facebook account. Bunch of software updates, changing things like menus and environments and speed of stuff and all that thing options. And the final thing that, again, a lot of people forget and that has been added since the Quest 1 came out and after the Quest 2, cross-buying games basically says, hey, if you have a PC or a way to play PC VR games, what you can do is go to the Crossbuy experience apps, go to Quest or whatever, and find apps that work both on Quest and on Rift or PC VR through the Oculus Store. So what you can do, for instance, is if I buy, I Expect You to Die 2. I can buy Expect You to Die 2 here, puzzle game. I can play it wirelessly on my Quest, and then connect it to my PC. It brings up the whole Oculus menu type of thing, and then I can launch this game, PC version of this game, better, graphics and some probably better options and stuff with that, and have a great time on the PC version for free, right? It's just like a cross-buy kind of thing, like how Xbox kind of does their Microsoft and Xbox cross-buy thing. This is a cross-buy as well. And so there's a lot of cross-buy games, as you can see here. The one thing it unfortunately doesn't show you is cross-buy games on the actual app or inside. I had to go to Oculus Quest cross-buy games and click on the buy experience. This is not available any other way as I can see. So you go here, you see there's actually quite a bit of games that tell you. This system, a lot of people don't know about because it really is poorly explained. For example, if I go to After the Fall, this is a cross-buy game. You wouldn't know in any capacity that this is a cross-buy game. It wouldn't show you in the app. It wouldn't show you in the description of the game. It wouldn't show you in the PC app. The only way to really figure this out is to just go to this section and then say, hey, it supports Quest 2 and it supports, multiple versions. But like this, it says, hey, doesn't say anything about it, but it's on this section, and so it does work, and it does show up. So those are things I kind of wanted to talk about today and kind of just get everyone's, everyone back up to speed that, yes, it is increasing. I guess I didn't really talk about this much. It started at 64 gigs for 300 and then 256 for 400. I'm not sure, a couple months later, it got to 128 gigs for 300, 256 for 400, and now it's finally, I guess, adjusting back to what it was, $400 for 128, 500 for 256. It is expensive, it is more, but overall I think it's definitely worth it even at this price, especially with all these things they've added. These are significant. These aren't just take it or leave it type of things. These are big. Airlink is big, link cable anytime is big, extra refresh is big, hand tracking is big, cross-buy games are really big right now, right? So overall, yes, it's $100 extra, but it's not outrageous. It's not like this world-ending thing that people need to get up in arms about, especially coming from someone that has bought the Quest 1 for $400 for 64 gigs and is definitely, that's what we did. And it's the fact that this is 300 was surprising because I thought it was going to be, minimum 400. And with these features, I definitely think it's overall a good thing to do. So if you enjoyed this and kind of want to see more of these, I am going to have a Quest 2 review out at some point, a comparison, all that stuff. So yeah, if you kind of enjoy these, look at this stuff, then yeah, subscribe, and I will see everyone in the next video.